You're about to listen to our episode with Charlie Beck. In this episode, you'll learn practical sales advice from Charlie, who became the top seller at multiple organizations before starting Deliver One. Charlie also works us through the key traits he believes every employee needs in order to be successful in business. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Charlie, you've got quite a story, I'd say, from your career in terms of relocation. That's where your experience is. How did you start out?
I would say, it goes back to when I pretty much left school. So left school, absolutely loved football, to be honest. Played for Brentford to a high level, and I thought that was going to be me, to be honest with you. Really, I didn't want it enough. So then I ended up actually just getting asked to do like a little summer job in a warehouse, helping my uncle, who's still in the industry now, was there just picking up a little bit of money to get me by. And then sort of time went on, got a little bit older, and then it sort of got to the end of college where it was like, right, what are you going to do now? Are you going to go to university, or are you going to sort of try and find a job, basically, which I think everyone sort of faces that problem in their life, really. And someone, actually my old bosses now, asked me to give sales a go, basically, so go from being in a warehouse to have just a job, full-time job, working in the office. And at the time, I was like, no, definitely not. Like, I'm always like going to be working with my hands. But ended up really enjoying it. From there, sort of, stayed there for 2-3 years and obviously didn't bother going to university. And then we sort of, from there, I went actually on to another startup company. So I was the first person there. I learned a hell of a lot, but it got to the point where basically, it was time to sort of part ways. My partner, who I'm with now, a business partner, I was working with him previously, and we sort of just met in the middle, really. That's sort of how Deliver One sort of come about. But I've sort of done a bit of everything. So I started off labouring, really. I was out on the road, sort of doing the jobs actually myself, and then just went into the sales part, a bit of operations, and then from there sort of took a little bit of a leap, but I was still young, so didn't have an awful lot to lose, into a startup. Was there, that was very successful, and then ended up parting ways. Just felt like it was time to sort of go by myself, really. That's how Deliver One sort of came about, I suppose, and that was that's where we are at the moment.
Nice. What time horizon was that over?
So I suppose, how old are you when you sort of at college? I suppose 17, 18.
Yeah.
So 17, 18, started doing that, and then I was at that company for maybe 2-3 years. So I'd say maybe 21, I went to the startup, and I mean, I was there for a good 6-7 years. So I mean, Deliver One's only 3 years young at the moment. So it's still very new and still very fresh. But I was always confident that I would do well, because when I started that startup, when I was at the startup at the beginning, I had an awful lot of drive, and I felt like I did really drive that company forward. So I felt if it's going to be my baby as such, then I'll have that same drive, or probably more, and want to do more for it. So I suppose that's sort of the span it's been over, really.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like obviously completely different industries, but quite similar to like how we'd have experienced it. Like, especially for me, like my first job, like within the industry, was at a small company, and then we went off to start like a separate SaaS company from that company. So it's like a lot, like you learn a hell of a lot in that time period, because you are so small, right? You get that. I was always comparing myself, like, well, what are my mates doing at that time? And they'd be like, either like you say, they'd have gone off to uni, or they'll be doing a job. But like when you come at entry level at a big company, you're doing that one thing only. Whereas like when you're in such a small company, you're dealing with angry clients, or like you're like learning to do some kind of work, or like used to make me get the teas all the time, but like those kind of things, right? So, and there's one of the things that we actually picked out, because like when we are hiring people now, we're always like we're a small company, you're going to learn so much. It's a really good way to get in and evolve and learn so 100%. Much quicker. So like talk to us a bit more about like you even said itself, you learned a hell of a lot. Like, what were the big things that you learned during that time?
Some good things and bad things. I don't want to sort of go into too much because they'll probably see my LinkedIn anyway at some point. But I mean, from a small company, you like you said, you learn an awful lot. It's not like you don't get pigeonholed in one thing. If you're sales or ops, you're doing pretty much everything. You're going to be loading the vans at some point. You're going to go and have to open up, shut up the shop, and you learn. You even accounts. Sometimes you get involved with the account side of things and bits and bobs like that. So, yeah, I mean, you learn a lot. I suppose you don't learn too much at school about this. I suppose how businesses are run. I suppose I don't know how to sort of explain it, but how chaotic it can be, to be fair, and how it changes daily, and you need to adapt, I suppose, and how I suppose the money coming in can change, and you have to change direction of what things you need to do. That's probably the most I learned out of it. The things I learned not to do is try and make money out of every single job, especially when we're working for other people. If things go wrong, we sort of we put our hands up and say, yeah, we've done wrong here, or we'll make it right. Whereas previous companies that I worked for, I don't feel like they did that, and I think that's where their downfall was, because they didn't build many relationships with other companies. Whereas at the moment we're doing really well with that side of things, because we're just honest with if we can do something, we will. We won't try and push things too much and accept too much on, I suppose.
We'll come on to that later, but in terms of mindsets, and like, you were very driven when I met you. It took 3 months before you said a word to me, but once you did, it became...
I was mad, Charlie, when I first started.
Honestly, it was... But you were always pretty driven. You always wanted to start your own business, and you'd say that, and you were learning. Like, did you want to start your own business back when you were starting out, or was it very much, it's a job, let's see where it goes, and then your next step was that, okay, maybe I can do this, or was it very much like just taking steps one at a time?
I think in my family, a lot of the men in my family have always been company owners. Even like, I know my dad's literally a window cleaner, but he does big businesses, does Wembley, stuff like that. So it's not like big commercial stuff. So I've always seen him graft and work really hard. So I mean, I try and take after that as much as I can, really. Got other people in my family that own businesses as well. So I've always seen the benefits of that, and I suppose it does allow you a little. I know you have to work hard, but it does allow you to have freedom. I suppose if I want to go and nip off on a Friday and play a bit of golf, then I will do that if I have the capabilities of doing that. So and that was, I suppose, part of the reason for starting Deliver One as well, because during that lockdown, I found that it was a little bit more flexible, I suppose, on, as long as the work's done, you can go nip out and take the dog for a walk isn't great, but like, I was in my head, I could go to the gym or go and train for something, or, it just gives you a lot more freedom and flexibility on your day, really. So yeah, that was sort of, I suppose I always had it in my mind that I would want to have control, I suppose, of what my life really, I suppose, gives you control, doesn't it? Or I suppose of what you're doing in your life.
Fair. Ears pricked up when you said golf. Like, we'll have to have a round sometime. Sure. Why relocation services and removals? Like, is that just because you fell into it? Yeah, so.
Literally just fell into it. There was no reason for that. I think if not, I probably would be taking over what my dad's doing. But yeah, I've done that, and going up abseiling down buildings isn't very fun. So my dad always said, "This ain't for you anyway." Going up ladders, I was like, so it was never for me. So I quickly got out of that one. But I think it's just a case of falling into something, to be honest with you. And then from there on, it's just a case of having relationships, meeting people, and sort of going around. Academically, I was never amazing. Probably underachieved and messed about a lot at school, as standard really. But yeah, I've always been a hard worker, I suppose. So yeah, that's sort of where it is.
Yeah, I think there's definitely common traits in people who end up like running businesses. Like when I listen to podcasts or like think about people that we know in our networks, like there is definitely like a disproportionate number of people who like played some kind of competitive sport at a high level.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, okay, well, if I'm not going to do that, you still have that competitive element. And like, where can you drive that? And you tend to drive that. Like, it's more like the game, I guess, of business than anything else that you can do that for. And yeah, there's so many people as well. Like, I was the same, where like, I knew once I found something to work on, I'd work hard at it. Yeah. But yeah, similar, I did fuck all at school. Like, I just wanted to get out as soon as I could. And as soon as I could, I did. But I always used to say to my mum, it's fine. Like when I find a thing, I'll work hard on it. And I guess it's similar for you.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was very lost, to be honest with you. I think I speak to a lot of kids now coming out of like, I suppose, A-levels and college, and they don't know what they're doing, or they don't know what to do. And I can definitely understand that, because that's where I was, and mentally I weren't in a great place either, to be honest with you. I thought football was going to be the one for me. It wasn't in the end. And really, I was getting paid hardly anything for a couple of days a week and going to college and doing something that weren't all that interested in either. So I think it's really hard at that age. So very lucky that I suppose I had family around me that gave me opportunities to go into something. Like my dad would get me out on the tools, or like my uncle, who works for a company called Hallmark, who gave me a chance in between where I split up from my old job and the current job. He said, well, just come in here, work here for, half a day, or, we'll pay you a little bit of money just to sort of tick you over. So it just gave me that little bit of cushion to know, when it's ready, you can sort of depart. So I've been really lucky with the support, I suppose, around me, which I think you do need, to be honest with you. So yeah, that's sort of where it was with that.
Absolutely. And then the final part of your progression is obviously taking, we'll call it a leap, but maybe it wasn't a leap for you from what you've been saying. Like, you moved into a startup, and then you've left that to start your own thing again, in essence. But what was the mindset around that leap? Was it just like, I can do this better, or was it?
Yeah. So the business that I was at previously, it wasn't going in I didn't like the direction it was going in personally, and I'd thought some things weren't quite right. So I won't go into too much detail on that. But it was sort of during lockdown where I thought, I'm keeping this company afloat with another one of the employees now works for me. We were both keeping that company afloat. We weren't getting any pay rises. There was no appreciation, I didn't feel, for us. So for me, it was a case of, I know how everything runs. The only problem I had was I don't know how to do the IT side of things at all, how to, like you guys doing the SEO. I don't know how to make a website. I don't know how to build CRMs. And again, lucky I got again with my partner Rob. He was actually working for us at the company I was at. He had a company called Transmax, which was basically a removal company, like using trucks around Europe. So he said to me, yeah, no problem. Lithuania, number one country in the world at coding and building this. I've got nephews and cousins that can build this, no problem. I was like, well, okay, great. How much? Yeah, no problem. Do that, no problem. So I was like, well, let's go 50-50. I've worked with him operationally, and I was always good at the sales side. So it sort of just come together, I suppose, in that sense.
Yeah. That's interesting, because it's similar part to our journey. Obviously, the agency we were at before, they were great, but there was an established kind of leadership team who had their own ideas of the direction to go, and we had a clear difference in approach and in direction. that's why we started our own thing, basically. That's what I've come to realise now after a year of running a business. So, that's interesting.
Yeah.
What was day one like?
Day one, I mean, it's taken a complete different turn. Like I said to you, where your business changes a lot. So the first company we've had was actually not called Deliver One, it's called Collect One.
Okay.
So Collect One was just literally for us to, I suppose, try and get a little bit of money behind us. So all we did was domestic moves, which we don't really touch anymore at all. Done okay. I was doing the sales, Rob was organising everything else, but was never our full, never was really where we want to end up going. Ended up doing well the first year, but after a certain amount, you have to become obviously VAT regged. That actually threw us out completely because we was 20% more expensive than everyone else, and that market is just so saturated. So it soon become clear that we weren't booking enough as we need to sort of survive. We'd be better off getting our own jobs back again. So we put that money into building the CRM, going into down like the European overseas stuff, and that was always the plan. But I suppose there was a leap and then another leap, I suppose, between the two.
Yeah.
But Collect One, we don't. That's completely kaput now. But that was sort of the sort of building blocks. It gave us a little bit of money to go into the next thing, sort of thing. But yeah.
So let's talk practically on that quickly. So you, I assume, resign from startup, do like I say, a little bit of work with Hallmark just to keep some cash coming in, and Collect One starts.
Yeah.
How did you get your first customer?
First customer, so we was buying leads. So the reason why we got talking, I don't want to buy leads, and we're getting away from that, which is great, because you're going up against 5 or 6 other compares, and they advertise on their websites, get the cheapest quote, which is not always the greatest thing to get the cheapest quote. So yeah, that's what we was doing, really. We were buying leads and just sort of hoping to book 1 or 2 out of 10, and on the back of that, that's where your money is, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that's how it started, to be honest. Yeah, just buying leads.
What, grinding it out on the phone?
Yeah, just literally, I'd get through like 50, 60 calls a day, be doing video calls over the phone, like through WhatsApp, trying to work out volumes, and it was chaos, to be fair, but didn't do a bad job at it. But it was never. There's a lot more work involved with I found domestic moving and problems that can go wrong than the smaller stuff that can go overseas. It's a lot easier, surprisingly.
Yeah. We're going to come on to sales in a bit and get some tips from you about sales. But I met you at the business show.
I think
business,
it was.
Business show. And you were on the store and you were doing your sales. I watched you in action and pretty impressed on that front. But your approach with Deliver One seems slightly different from a traditional kind of sales, in terms of you're almost trying to make it nice and easy for the customer to do it themselves. So you're almost removing that personal connection, which seems a strong point for you.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you've got to look at the next generation. People don't like picking up the phone to each other anymore, I don't feel. They want to just go online and book it themselves, which is, you're more than capable of doing that on our website now. Gives instant pricing. It's very straightforward. And people want the ease of things, like down to the fact that we'll send out boxes and packing materials beforehand. They haven't got to move, really. They can literally just pay for everything over the phone, and all of their paperwork can be done online as well, which I think I showed you a little bit of. But yeah, that's sort of our approach. I suppose where we are, we don't have a big warehouse. We share warehousing. I mean, so my partner's in Lithuania. I'm in the outskirts of London. We've got Vicky, who's up in Manchester way. We've got Sam, who's like Ipswich sort of way. And then we've got Sadie's not too far from us. And a couple of the drivers are dotted around everywhere. So for us, having a system that was going to do a lot for you is very important, and to communicate with the clients, because you can become very overstretched with questions and stuff like that. We would have to employ more people, which then we become less, I suppose, not less
cost effective.
Yeah. So yeah, just making it as easy as possible has always been in the forefront, I suppose, of our mind with that sort of side of things. Definitely.
How like what's the growth journey been like? So you said like 3 years young as a company now. Like, has growth been like to your expectations, quicker than expectations? Like, where's that at?
It's been. I mean, it's been quick to the point of where we are. I mean, we've got 5 people now in the office, which is good, and then we've got 3 drivers, which is fine. But it's kind of at that point where we can get another person, but will it sort of pay for itself? Or, we need to find other avenues now, which we will do. I think we're going to start looking at maybe the relocation side of things, which we've already built into our system. I think we spoke about as well going down the route of this, actually possibly getting people onto our system to use, because I think it's pretty far superior than a lot of ones that I've used previously. So I think we might start going down that route potentially. And yeah, I think for us that's probably the next sort of steps, and building teams around that. But yeah, it's still a little bit up in the air. But it's so frustrating getting the right people in, because for one, I need to trust them working from home. They need to enjoy working from home. I've had people where they've come in, got them to mine, trained them for a month, spent a lot of time, and then they've gone home and then realised it's not for them, which is mind-numbing because it happens a lot. But then every now and then you get one that's like loves it and it's great. So the people that we've got on at the moment, yeah, they're like family for us, really, which is great. Really reliable as well. So
many questions at that part, but just you as a person, you strike me as a like really good operator. You've got things in control, but also like, how do you keep on top of everything? Because it's fast paced. Like, we'll often have like weekly calls scheduled to talk about your SEO and stuff like that, and you'll be like, I can't do it this week, lads. I'm busy, and I understand that. So, like, I suppose, how do you prioritize?
It's hard. I always for me, I'm better when I'm going out and meeting people and making relationships, because that's where growth's going to come from for us, I think. I will always prioritize that, but sometimes it's just physically it can't be done. Where I live basically is part of our warehousing. So I live on a farm, we've got sort of basically storage there. So it might so happen that a driver comes in and it's absolutely pissing down, is what we're saying. Yeah. So I'm outside and I'm running stuff in and out, trying to get things in before they get wet, or making sure people are offloaded, and that can just sometimes just turn up. So if or plans change, whereas someone's broken down, a vehicle's broken down, now it's coming via you, or there's just a lot of things that are forever changing. I'd love to just keep on growing. Sometimes Rob has to sort of rein me in and be like, Charlie, there's a lot of stuff that needs work on right at the moment. We need to do this and this and this, even down to like, I don't know, Vicky puts in a commission or something like that. I need to go through everything and get her paid. Otherwise she's going to have the ump with me. So just things like that, or it might be getting other companies paid, make sure they're paid, make sure we're getting paid. So it does, we do pretty much everything. I mean, we can get people on board, but then, as I said, it's more money out of the pot, really. We don't. The good thing about us, we don't sort of pay each other an awful lot of money. We try and keep it all in the business and keep putting it back into the business, which I think is important at early stages.
And I suppose, just circling back to what you said previously, a major factor of growth in any company. Like we've got it wrong in the past with our first hire, just the wrong hire at the wrong time in terms of job role. And you struck a chord because we say this. We often say, what type of people are good enough for our business? Like, who do we want? Like, what do you look for in a staff member?
Yeah, we're still trying to figure that out because it's really, really hard. I tend to, like you, come back to, I think, for me, some sort of sport aspect for me, it massively helps, I think. I don't know what it is, but it just seemed to have a connection, I suppose, more with that sort of competitive edge, and I think that helps. If they're currently sort of in sport as well or something like that, I again find that there's probably more a laid back person. They're a bit more punctual usually, and they've got a bit more discipline, I suppose, on their whole life, which working from you're gonna need to be, I suppose. It's hard to say, to be honest, but I go on just a judge of feeling. I'll always go and meet them face to face but it is very hard. I mean, we've had the classic, like looking through Indeed, hundreds of CVs, and you can't tell the difference. The reason we employed the last person, we had hundreds and hundreds of CVs, but we had only one person literally call us out of all of them and actually proactively call us, which for me, I was hiring a salesperson. No one actually called me or trying to find my details on LinkedIn or just send me a message. He was the only one that actually called me. So I was like, yeah, no problem, come in, let's have a chat. And he was like, yeah, I manage a school kids team. I'm currently just labouring, really, doing removals, but I want to change. So yeah, that I was like, fine, let's just give it a go. Straight on the back of that, really. I didn't really ask him for his A levels or anything like that. It was just a case of having that, I suppose, connection. But yeah, it's tough. Yeah,
that's a perfect example of what we always say to everyone.
Yeah,
people buy from people.
Yeah,
like that human touch, that personal connection. Someone picking up the phone and actually having a chat gets things done, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. I think just to touch on that, I think that's why we sort of come together anyway. There was an awful lot of SEO people touting at that show.
Yeah.
But I just felt like your guys' energy and you just sounded like you knew what you was talking about, to be honest with you. And we had that conversation, and I remember when you called, I remember having the chat with you. So yeah, it was quite a straightforward one for us, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll take that.
Click that up, George. Yeah, I think I do think it is interesting though that we don't argue about this, but quite often we'll have like back and forth on it. Is that like from a sales perspective, like it feels like picking up the phone is a lost art.
Yeah.
Like because like even that phone call when Brendan called you, the amount of persuasion I had to go like, call him. He's busy.
I literally went and did a lap of the office block while I was calling you. But yeah,
that's where I've been quite good with that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Even like some of the people I call now, they're like, "Oh, you're the only person that's called me." I'm like, "Really? Like,
yeah.
How? How are people? You can't just email and." I mean, a new one for us is definitely WhatsApp, going down the WhatsApp route. Some people still find that a little bit informal, but I mean, if you're not getting an answer off anyone anyway, and you get blue ticked, at least you know they're not interested, or they have to come back to you then. So
yeah,
I mean, that's helped, and I think we're developing something on our system that will actually, when the lead pops into us now, they'll automatically be added on WhatsApp and messaged.
Nice.
Just to say we've sent you an estimate of so it's just trying as much as possible to get hold of someone and getting some sort of response is sort of key for us, really. Yeah.
I suppose, does it make, in an industry like yours, you know, you've got people's belongings, like it could be valuable to them, sentimental. Like, do you think that personal connection is about building trust as well?
100%, yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, if I was sending my stuff over the other side of the world, I would, for one, want to trust the person that's going to send it. Some people don't. They just want the cheapest option, which is usually they end up paying double for that. But I mean, I think trust is a massive thing. We've had ones where me and Vicky have actually sold from different companies from old jobs, and either way, one of us have actually been slightly more expensive, and they've gone with the more expensive option just because they like Vicky more that time rather than me, or they like me more than Vicky. It's just you go with who you feel comfortable with. So where people talk about pricing a lot, I think is a bit of a cop out, to be honest with you. I think you're not doing enough personally, I think. Yeah.
So to be fair, so like one of the things, like we put like a whole section in the research doc around like sales and asking you questions. So I think it's a good segue, which is, I think you highlight it on your LinkedIn and you've spoken about it today, that you would, if we asked you to pick a strength, I feel like you'd go towards sales and building connections and things like that.
Yeah.
Like, what are the attributes that you think are making you so good at that?
So difficult.
Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm the same as you. Coming here today, I'm still very nervous. Like, and all I'm doing is talking about my company, which is straightforward. But yeah, I mean, I think if you're not nervous, I think it's something wrong with you, really, or they don't have something going on there. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like talking to people, I suppose. I like to listen as well to what they've got to say and what their problems are, and I suppose I'll go out the way, even if it sounds like a lost lead, or something that's a bit not really up our street. I'll try and find a solution for it and at least go back to them. So yeah, I'm always, sometimes it's not even worth my time, but I'll always try and find it to be worth my time. So yeah, I suppose it's just a little bit of hard work and just putting a bit of graft in, really. That's all. And trying to contact people at different times of the day. I used to contact people, and not so much now, but I'd contact them if they're from the US, they're not going to want me calling them at 9 a.m. in the morning. I'm going to have to call them at 8 o'clock at night to get hold of them. So yeah, it's just a bit of hard work, really. Yeah.
Hard work, and something we've found or heard and try, and with you had to obviously persevere. You were obviously busy with the business, growing that, and it would take a couple of phone calls or a couple of attempts because you were busy. Like, would say, not right now, call me in a month, and that's how it kind of happened. Like, how much does perseverance play in sales?
Yeah, it does. I mean, sometimes we have people that come back 6 months later to us and want to book. So, I mean, it's just about keeping the lead warm and keeping it fluffy, just checking in with them, even if it's a hello, just making sure, seeing how you're getting on with your move and blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, it's you need to persevere, definitely. That does play a massive part. I wouldn't... Yeah, callbacks for us, I stress on that a lot. If you're not calling people back, then it's just, you're not making the most out of that potential lead, as really. So yeah.
I think one that, so won't go into too much detail on who it is, but one of our clients. So I my stepdad was looking for a particular service, and I was like, oh, one of our clients does that. Just drop them an email or whatever, they'll come back to you. And they called, but from like an unknown number, and didn't leave a message. And I feel like that's such an low-hanging fruit. Is like, if you're gonna call, if they're not gonna answer, like, it might feel a bit cringy, but like, just leave a message. Like, at least then they know who it was and what you want. And chances are, like, it's gonna, like I say, you're just playing the percentages, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, I've had somewhere, like, I'm like I said, I used to suffer massively from anxiety when I left school, and like, even just messaging someone on LinkedIn would be quite scary to me, to be honest with you. And I am still young, so I'm still, learning, I suppose, with things. But
how old are you?
29. Yeah, so getting a bit older now. I'm getting greys as well. Yeah, and it's finished.
Oh, you two younger. You three.
Are you 30 this year or next year?
30 next year.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. So I suppose. Yeah, but now I've just like, you know what? I ain't got nothing to lose. Just message them and see what comes back. And most of the time, it's usually open with open arms. So I've had ones where I've gone in, just messaged someone, called them on the spot. They've said, "Oh, give me a call." Called them, met them the next day, and just gone for it. And then just like this, having a chat, and now they're a client, and they're still a client from pretty much like the first few months of when we opened, really. So you know, it's just sort of, I suppose, just try and be as confident as you can, even if it is a bit of a facade sometimes. It's just try and put the, you know, be confident.
Yeah. So with sales at the previous agency, head of SEO, like I'd be in charge of like doing a lot of the pitches for SEO services for the agency, and I used to hate it. I'd say to you all the time, oh, I can't do that. Like, but then starting your own business, it's your own baby, and that almost it's not a case of you can or can't, it's a case of you have to.
You kind of have to.
And I think that motivation helps. Like, have you noticed that? Because I know from your, like, from research and your career and stuff, you mentioned about at the startup, like you built it up, you know, sales as well. You were like the top salesman at companies, and like, what are those tips to help you, like, just that mindset when it comes to sales? And I know you've spoken already about like almost not being shameless in a sense, but just doing it and just going for it and finding out what happens. But is there any practical advice you can give to someone who just doesn't like sales?
Yeah, it's hard, and it can be draining at times as well, like going through leads and just getting no. But you will get something out there, but just try and listen. I've had people come in and sort of just ramble on, and then they're not even letting the person speak. Like, I like speaking, but you know, when you're speaking about something, I'm sure you like talking about something as well. So it's sales isn't all about just bombarding someone with information. Just let them talk to you, and they'll usually open up to you and give you their problems that they're facing. So, you know, that's then for you to go back and work out how you can, I suppose, doctor that problem. So, yeah, I mean, I would say that's one of the main things for me. I was always say, just introduce yourself, say what you're doing, and then just say, you elaborate, sort of, you talk to me. So, people, especially people, if they're moving, sometimes they're not excited about it because they're getting moved for work and they don't actually want to move for work. So, you know, it's not really an exciting time for them, which they'll tell you about that, but they're airing out and they're building a relationship with you, or they are excited and they want to talk about it. So, yeah, I think it's important to sort of, listen, I suppose, to what they're going through really at that time.
And also, how important is that personal kind of connection or likability? Because we'll often like both jump on a sales call with a client and be like, you're more their type of person. You take the lead on that front. Like, do you do similar, like with your team, or?
Yeah, I to be fair, I used to do something a little bit naughty, but it always worked. So it was, before calling them, I'd work out where they sort of lived on their postcode. So I'd look around the corner and sort of try and find like the best restaurant in their thing. But like, oh yeah, my family live there.
Yeah, nice.
And just try and get the connection straight away. And but sometimes you get pulled up on it and it'd be like, that's been gone for 10 years.
No. How did you talk your way out of that then?
I was like, oh really? Oh blimey, it must have been I don't know. Or just go,
I really need to go and see him. I haven't seen him for years.
Put mine down. But yeah, no, just little things like that, or like my family used to live around that area, or just try and get some sort of thing in common, and then they'll start talking and opening up again, I suppose. But I mean, I don't condone that, but it does like just trying to get something out of someone is good.
I think it's like quite a huge leap though, right? You was like, I was an anxious kid, like 16, 17 years old, and like then your strongest suit is the thing that most people have anxiety around. Like,
that was hard. That was really hard because, especially when you don't know what you're talking about initially. I was in a office, sort of, I was only 17, 18 and still felt like a little boy, to be honest with you. And then being in like a corporate office was, I had to sort of pick up the phone and just talk to people just off the cuff. And I didn't really know what I was talking about. So, that was really daunting at the beginning. But in the same breath, the more you do it, like probably like yourself, the more actual confidence you build from it, I suppose, and you feel more comfortable doing that. I think if it was up to me, when I have kids, I'm definitely going to get them into like stage school or something like that, because I feel like it's so important to just have that confidence, like, and in life, and just not be afraid of getting up on stage and making a fool of yourself, because I just find that's just, and obviously I was scared of making a fool of myself constantly, so I think that's something that really helps.
I got 2 stories on that. So the first one is when I was first looking for a job, like, so before I started at that agency, like, that I didn't speak to anybody for like 3 months. I was mad shy.
Mate, it used to be awkward. I'd sit next to you. It's like, that kid doesn't like me. Doesn't like me.
But like, so before I found that job, I went for a half-day like introductory session at like a recruiter. I didn't even know what a recruiter was. That I just thought, I need a job. I'll go there. So I turn up in like a full suit. Like, it would have been like 12, 13 years ago. So, like really like strong striped shirts, like the like different colour collar were fashionable.
You look like a banker.
Oh mate, it was awful. So I walked in and I was so shy, and then they told me that I had to call people. Oh mate, it was. I pretended that I was ill, and then just left and never spoke to them again ever. Like, I just couldn't do it. So I did that once. Yeah. I think I told the story. Have I told this story before when I pretended to go blind? No, that's all that story. So when I was at school, do you like when you do English lessons or whatever, like Oliver Twist, and you got to read the book out loud? I was so nervous and everyone was looking at me, so I just went, I can't see. The teacher was looking at me like, what the fuck is wrong with this kid? I can't see, miss, I can't see it. Then just like, pass the book to the next person.
I mean, that's...
Yeah,
but then to now as well, like when you're on the phone, like I look at you and like, oh my God, Harry's so much better than me at sales.
I think you just got, it's like you say, you just get the reps in, and eventually it disappears.
I've got my cousin working with me at the moment, because she's just she's got 1 more year of uni, so she's looking for a bit of part-time work. Said to her yesterday, all I want you to do, just there's 10 people, call these people, they were good jobs, reviews, I just want them to make a review. And she's like, Gina, I could see her Gina herself up there. I was like, Sadie, it's fine. Like they're gonna be all right. They'll be fine with you. Like, they're gonna like you probably. It's just all you got to do is call them and ask them. But I know the feeling, because I've even just asking someone to do a review, like back when I first started, it was it's just daunting. Everything's just daunting. I don't know what it is.
I mean, we've recently, as you know, we've been through a round of asking all of our clients for reviews. They're all happy with us. They all enjoy working with us, but for some reason, asking them for a review is still pretty scary, isn't it? It's like, why?
It's funny how it works, isn't it? I think it's just like you say, that when you start a business, like everything's a first at some point.
Yeah.
And it's just like first after first after first.
Yeah.
I think eventually, like, you just, like, we're almost a year in now, you just become numb to it. Like, literally, it's like, I've got to do it, I've got to drive, got to go. Like, how would you describe yourself as an operator? Like, you numbers based? You like a spreadsheet? Is it more feeling?
Ops side, definitely Rob's, way better than me. Like, even like down to my inbox. He was like, when I went away for my sister's holiday, he sort of took over my inbox. And I got back, I was like, you've deleted all my emails. And I was like, this is how I work. I was like, because I usually would keep the ones unread open and leave all the emails in there. But he literally, once it's done, he'll delete it. And I was like, I can't do this. And now I'm using it. I was like, it's so much better. But yeah, I mean, he's he's very good. If I can do it, but it's not really my thing. I'm on to the next thing, or I'll get sidetracked with something very, very easy. That is my problem. I can procrastinate a lot. But yeah, it's easily done.
I think let's round it out by talking a bit more about Deliver One.
Yeah.
But I think you touched on it briefly, but not too much detail. Like, what does the future hold?
It's a tough one. I think this year for us has been really good for where I've managed to go out, speak to people, and a lot of the bigger boys in the companies are coming to us for our European work, which is really good. And we've been inundated. Like, I've asked Sadie to come in and just look after that sort of. We've actually made like a trade inbox now for Europe runs. So running our trucks in and out of Europe, they can do full export pack, which is hard to find. the good thing is it's all pretty much within a 2-3 day window delivery. So we could get something picked up in Berlin on one day and delivered within 2 or 3 days in London, which is good for the industry. And yeah, it seems like we're getting a lot of inquiries for that. So I'd like to grow that, and there's still more people to speak to, and I suppose just grow that fleet of people that are going in and out of Europe. I think next year we want to get something a bit bigger, because we're only running sort of Lutons at the moment, which don't hold an awful lot of weight, which can sometimes be a problem. So yeah, want to get something a bit bigger and sort of grow that side of thing. I think, like we said, I'd like to speak to people. We're open to conversation about anyone that's looking for platforms. I don't even think it'd have to be in the removals. We could probably doctor it to pretty much anything, to be honest with you. Just as a sales and operation and accounting platform, it's got everything there. So maybe go down that sort of side of things. And potentially just like we wanted just a bit more reach. So you guys are working on that. This is just more leads, more natural leads, and more growth, and just more awareness for the brand is where we want to be, to be honest with you. That's the aim.
And I guess you're just funding that by continually just reinvesting in profits.
Pretty much, yeah. All the money goes back into the system. Our CRM is massively important to us, and we want to keep up with times. As soon as you leave that system for 6 months, there's a new button that does this and does that. So yeah, I think just we've got a dev that works constantly for us. So yeah, I mean, just keeping him busy is good. Like that's another thing about being part of a small startup. I ask all my guys, ops, sales, if you have anything that's going to benefit it, just message me, because I feel like in a big company that's not getting heard at all. And turning that boat will be a lot harder than turning our little boat. We can sort of get things done like that. So it makes us I think a lot further ahead of some of the older removal companies out there that are not moving with the times. I don't think things are changing and they need to adapt, I think.
Do you set goals? And do you kind of track those goals at the same time?
I don't too much, but what I'll do at the beginning of the year, and we'll have like quarterly updates, me and Rob, and we'll sort of discuss, what we wanting to do this quarter, what's the aims, what do we want to do on the system, what do we want to do with this, obviously everyone here, what's the staff, what's the aims for that quarter, and we'll try and get there. And if we don't get there, then we try and work out why, or how we're going to do that for the next quarter. So yeah, we do set goals, I suppose, but we do need to do that more, I think, in the company. It does help as well. It sort of gives you a sort of aim, doesn't it, I suppose?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where you're going towards.
Yeah. Should we run out some quick fire questions, finish this?
Yes, but I want to go back quickly to sales and ask the one question that I think everyone hates about sales, especially me. Like, how do you handle the rejection of the countless no's and like?
I usually, Vicky, what she does, she usually calls me up and rants at me for about half an hour.
Like that, yeah.
And I'm just like, look, you know what you're doing. You've been doing it for years. You'll be fine. It'll come. It's like, okay, all right, I feel fine now. So yeah, there is that. I think for me, I need to keep myself active. So yeah, I'll always go for a run or go on my bike or do some sort of swimming or anything like that, just to sort of clear my head. Especially this time of year, it's great. You ain't got time to think because it's so busy. Yeah. But when it gets around those sort of February, March time where nobody's moving at all, you are literally grinding things out. It can get very, very depressing in a way sometimes. So I think just having that release and just getting away and just clearing your head helps, definitely.
Yeah, and I think there's that theme of sport as well. I just wanted to quickly ask you about the Ironman that you ran in France. Like, A, how, and B, like, was it just not torture the whole way around? It would be for me. I ran a marathon and I literally hated it from like mile 1 to mile 26. I was like, this is the worst.
Yeah, well, I've got my godfather to thank for that. He's done like 5, I think, or 6, something stupid. And yeah, same sort of thing. I was just trying to find something that I could sort of get into. I love golf. I'll play golf as much as I can. But yeah, in terms of like something a bit more strenuous, then sort of seemed like a good thing. I've always been a good runner. I ran for my borough anyway when I was young, so that part was good. Swimming, can't really swim at all. Yeah. So I decided to take on a full Ironman with like 6 months to train. Wow. So and I'd never had a bike either. So
wow.
Yeah, so it was a bit stupid really, but yeah, it was good. The first time I got on my bike with the cleats, oh my god, it was terrible. I fell off like 5 or 6 times. Yeah. So that was in January, and I had the actual Ironman in June. So I didn't have an awful lot of time to sort of get up to scratch with it. But yeah, I just one of them ones you just got to grind it out, and not it's I suppose the full one it is hard, but I don't feel like you ever get. You know when you like running up a hill and you're really blowing and like you're like nearly dying sort of thing. Yeah. I don't feel like you're ever really at that point when you're doing the full one. It's more like about maintaining yourself and knowing yourself and making sure you get to checkpoints at certain times. Whereas, you know, if you're good, you're going to be racing it. So yeah, you will be doing that. But for me, it was a point of just getting it done, getting the job done. But yeah, it was horrific, to be honest with you. Yeah, it weren't great.
What's the best piece of business advice you've ever received?
I think when you're going to meet someone, I think it's important to understand what you're going in there for. Don't go in there and just sort of hope for the best and just have a chat. I think if you're going into a meeting with someone, have an aim. Like, what do you want to get out of that meeting? Is it a sale, or do you want to talk about something else that you're planning on doing? Or I think that was really good. That was good advice for me. Because sometimes especially when you're young, you just go into meetings and just sort of just sitting there and just getting fired questions at you. It's kind of good to know what you were in there for. That one, and also, so that was from an old boss, and then from another one from another boss was sort of like, don't try and make money out of everything. Especially when you're dealing with like corporate clients. If one's not going to make money on this time, just accept that ain't priced it right, or you've got to put more men on the job, or just do it, and you've got the next one. But if you try and skimp and try and do it on a whim, you're going to end up losing them anyway. So it's not all about sort of making money all the time. I think it's got to just make sure you're doing a good job.
If you were to start from zero, what would you do differently?
I think I would start the business earlier. I would make that jump. I think it's so worth it. Like, if anyone's ever thinking about doing it and they haven't, I mean, kudos to you as well. Like, I'd find it a lot harder when you've got mortgage and kids. Definitely. I think that's a lot of people's sticking points.
That's why I've got no hair.
I'm going that way. So yeah. But yeah, I think that's a massive sticking point. But would you agree that it's the best thing you've done?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I feel like I feel like we should have done it maybe 10 years earlier when we first kind of started discussing it.
Yeah, we said that on the first. It was when we were doing that filming day. Do you remember when we did that first video for 1225? And we were both like, why did we wait 10 years to do this? It's crazy.
But then I suppose you might not have picked up certain things that you picked up on the way in that time. So
it's hard, isn't it? Yeah,
but I think I could have gone earlier. Definitely, I was a victim of my own success at my old company. I was very good on the phone, and I wanted to progress, but because I was so good on the phone, they didn't want to get me out of the office. Mm-hmm. So I was sort of just stuck doing the same thing like for years, like just calling, and I could not do that anymore. I can do it. I do still do it, but it's for myself. It's not for someone else. So it was. I could have definitely gone a bit earlier on it, I think, but I'm not gonna moan.
I think it's hard. It's hard to go backwards as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
In a sense that the big sticking point for me for the last couple of years is like, but my life's good. I
Yeah.
was earning good money. Like, I could go on holiday whenever I wanted. Like,
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, so then, actually, I'm giving up that. I think that was a big thing to be able to actually, you know what? You just gotta forget about that. And now we had this. How many times we've had this conversation since like in the last 12 months? It's the least I've ever cared about like personal finances. Like,
Yeah.
Just even come into
we're
my
surviving.
mind.
Like the missus are surviving, and we're not missing anything that we had before. But for me as well, it's that kind of mindset. Like I fell into the trap of having almost a closed mindset of like, oh, I work to live.
Yeah.
And now it's like it's not gone the complete other way because I'm still there for like, but yeah, it's just that mindset of like, if I'd actually thought about it properly back in the day, I'd be so much. I feel like I'd be further ahead in life.
Yeah. I think you said that earlier on about when you joined that startup. I guess the mindset wasn't really like this is someone else's business. You just work.
I acted like it was my business. Really, I put in so much time and effort into it, and to be honest, it was a bit naughty from them. They did dangle a bit of a carrot to me as well to say like, oh, we'll give you equity and blah, 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 blah. And the years kept going, and nothing happened. So I did just treat that like that, and that's why I started, because I knew I had that drive in me anyway. So yeah,
I think that's a perfect piece of advice for anyone looking to get into business or in a job. If people treated their jobs like it was their own business, they would become so much more successful. And a lot of it's that kind of innate like mindset that's driven into people. But it's just interesting.
So final question to end on. What's the one thing you'd want people to take away from this episode?
I think what we've just touched on there. If you are thinking about going by yourself, I know it's hard, but go for it. I think go for it. Definitely go for it. And the statistics aren't great, obviously, on successful businesses. But if you haven't got an awful lot to lose and you're confident, you've got drive, I think go for it. Because it does offer you that freedom. And it's a couple of years down the line where we're at now, like if I want a day off, I'm gonna have a day off. Like it's not, I haven't got to ask someone to have a day off, and it just gives you that sort of freedom. If I want to do something or nip down the shops, then it's fine. Like I'm the same with my workers. Like you've got to pick the kids up, go pick the kids up. Like I don't care as long as the work's done. It doesn't bother me. Like whereas I think it's a bit archaic to have people saying 9 to 5, got to be in, got to report in here, got to exit here. I think go for it. Go for it if you've got an idea, just run with it. I think.
How long did that employee mindset take for you to get rid of and get into the founder's mindset? As in, I still sometimes think like, oh no, I need to.
Yeah,
be
you do that thing.
work.
If you're not at work for 8, you start to panic.
Yeah, I get a bit stressed and I'm like, no, it's going to ruin my day. Like, and that's because it's been built in for 16 years. So
I don't know. I suppose. Yeah, so that's a tough one. I mean, I'll always log in at work. I'll always be around for work. If something's urgent, I'll always be there. But I mean, the whole purpose of us starting the company was to give us freedom, I suppose. That was the main thing. If for example, my partner lives in Lithuania, can run the company from there, no problem. If I want to go and live in Barcelona or go on holiday for 6 months, but still work from a hotel, then I can do that. And that was always our aim. I suppose you just got to trust the people that you employ to work around you. Really, that's the main thing.
Yeah, and that's it. We're done. Yeah,
perfect.
George, any questions from you? Happy. All good? Yeah, sweet.
Cool. Enjoyed it.
It's good.
Good. Thank you. Yeah, very good.